Hello, if you are new to the channel, I'm making my own tactics RPG where you can explore towns with multiple playable characters and engage in turn-based battles with classic isometric art. This isn't a progress update about my game. Instead, I want to share the tools I've started using to help me document my development process. I'll also show you how Claude can write blog posts for me based on my game architecture and implementations, which I then publish on my website. Documentation is one of those things that I find boring to do, but it's also something that I wish I have when working on a project. So I figured, why not use Claude to document my game? And when I tried it, I was amazed at how well it created exactly the kind of documentation that I wanted. I'm still relatively new to using Claude and AI agents in general, but I've found it surprisingly easy to integrate with my project. I'm using Claude Code with the Pro plan, and I've set up MCP servers to integrate with both Obsidian and the Godot engine. I also use other MCP servers that help Claude produce better outputs overall. To enable Claude to work with my Obsidian Vault, I use a community plugin that starts up the MCP server, and I add it to the list of servers that Claude can use. There's also an MCP server for Godot, which allows Claude to analyze my game structure more effectively by interfacing directly with the Godot engine. In my Godot project, I already have a Claude.md file that was generated by Claude using the /init command. This file helps Claude to understand the project context whenever I use it again, giving it an immediate grasp of what the project is about. I've already asked Claude to create documentation for me in my Obsidian Vault before, but I'll ask it to create new documentation in a fresh folder so you can see the entire process. I also have this rough documentation that I made long ago, but it's not very detailed, but I want Claude to reference this old documentation that I have so that it can have some more idea what this game is about and what I'm trying to do. And now I will prompt Claude to generate documentation for my game. I already have this prompt prepared, and it will help Claude to guide it on making the documentation. And I'll just paste it here. So right now it is trying to use the Serena MCP server, and I'll just allow it. It makes Claude very efficient to understand the code base. And now it is using the MCP server for Obsidian. So it is reading the rough documentation that I have because I asked it to do that. So it created now the new folder called Tactics RPG, which I've also asked it to do, and it's starting to create some files under it. So I think it is not using the MCP server for Godot. I think using the Serena MCP server is enough for it to understand the game structure and the code base as well. You can also look at the Serena open source project, and there's guide here on how to use it with Claude, and it helps Claude to efficiently understand the code base. So I think if I start asking Claude to create new scenes for me in the Godot engine, that's when it will start using the Godot MCP server. But right now I think Claude is not using this. It seems Serena is enough to understand the code base and the game structure. We can already look at some of the notes that it made. So there's an architecture overview. So I might have to review this later. I think it's very detailed, but it's very long to review in a short time. So I've already noticed an incorrect detail. I do not reset the turn value of the unit to 0. I just subtract 100 to the turn value of the unit. So if the turn value becomes something like 105, it will not reset to 0, but it will become 5. So it's not perfect, but having this documentation is nice to have because it's easy for me to lose track of what I've done on a project if I'm not working on it every day or every night. So I think the prompt could be improved. I might redo it again. I don't want very long documentation, but just a very high level overview. It also added some notes here, which I haven't implemented yet, but it is in the rough documentation that I have. Yeah, I think this is nice. It also added in the things that I wanted to implement as well. So right now the input for the movement is not set up to use the WASD. It's only set up to use arrow keys. So this is incorrect as well, but I think that's because Claude did not use the Godot MCP server and it wasn't able to look into the input setup that I have. So I think this documentation is great for me so that whenever I don't work on this project for some time, I can just go back into this and see what I haven't implemented yet, like for example the quest system. And yeah, I can have a read on the documentation that Claude made and I might change some things in here. But overall, I think this is nice. So finally, it is done. I think it took almost 30 minutes. I think my prompt made Claude to try to create a very detailed documentation, but I would prefer if it is shortened, so I might change this prompt again. But overall, I think it's nice, and this will be very helpful for me. Now I want Claude to help me write a blog post based on my game architecture and implementations. I have my own website, sort of a portfolio, with a page that lists technical blogs about my game development, and you can click on them to read more details. Claude actually helped me create these blog posts, and I was amazed at how close the content was to what I wanted to write, except that I'm not particularly good at writing blog contents. It wasn't perfect, but there were only a few things I needed to change and correct. Overall, I think Claude is a better blog writer than I am. In my portfolio project, I have a custom slash command called create game blog, and it helps me create new blog posts. It already knows to reference the Godot project and the Obsidian notes. I'll just update the path to point to the documentation that Claude created earlier, and then I'll ask Claude to create a new blog post. So this will ask me what is the topic that I want. I think let's try the turn order system. So now it will start writing this new blog post. This website is made with React, by the way. I actually created a sub-agent, the Tactics RPG expert, so it will help the main running Claude when it comes to information about the Tactics RPG. The Claude website have nice documentation on how to use sub-agents. You may want to try this as well. So it will create a new file in here that contains the new blog. And if you are familiar with Next.js, if you visit the blog post with that slug, the content will be generated by this component. We will see the actual blog post once Claude is done. So now it is trying to create the new file in this React app. And I will just allow it to do that. Okay, it's finally done, and I guess let's run the project and let's see. So I now have a new blog post for the turn order system. So the first thing I notice is the incorrect date, but that's just a minor issue. And the tags, I think it makes sense. I see the content. So this time Claude got it correct. So looking at this code now, I actually forgot some of this. I'm not even sure if I wrote this code, even if I'm the only one that's developing this game. But yes, I think this is correct. I remember some tiebreakers when there's multiple units that surpass the turn cost. Oh, it actually created a table, which is nice, I think. Yes, this is correct. Yeah, I'm actually happy with the blog post that it created. I think it's pretty accurate. It's actually more accurate than the one in the documentation. And there's also areas for improvement. So this is just an early stage development. So there's indeed some areas for improvement. So I think this is nice overall. Actually, this is pretty great. I'll just update some things in here and add some pictures in here. And yeah, that's how I use Claude to create blog posts for my website. So once I'm done updating this blog post that Claude created, I'll just push the changes and deploy it. And it should be live by the time you watch this video. So that's how I use Claude to help me document my game, making it much easier for me to keep track of my decisions and design choices. I don't give Claude full control over developing my game because I genuinely enjoy the development process myself. But I find Claude incredibly helpful when discussing technical challenges, especially since I'm still relatively new to Godot and C Sharp. That's it for this video. If you want to follow along with my game's development, please consider subscribing to my channel. I try to upload new devlogs about my progress whenever I can. Thanks for watching.